Donald Trump held an event, answered questions, and went completely off script in a way that is once again raising questions about cognition. We're going to get back to the cognition question in a moment. Trump at the Kennedy Center. It's sort of like if you imagine what would happen if people from the back just would yell random questions. What do you think about John Cena's role in this season's WWE? What's your view on mayonnaise on French fries? Trump is talking as if he's being asked about this stuff. But of course, he's just ranting and raving incoherently. Here is Trump talking about grass. And I guess it's not a euphemism for cannabis. He's talking about actual grass. Listen to this.
And the lifetime of this grass has long been gone. When you look at the parks where the grass is old, tired, exhausted, we're going to redo the grass with the finest grasses. I know a lot about grass because I own a lot of golf courses, and if you don't have good grass, you're not in business very long, Lindsey Graham. By the way, you have very good poll numbers, Lindsey. I just saw. Congratulations.
There you go. So if there were any questions, no one knows grasses better than Donald Trump. And you can add that to the long list of areas in which his expertise is unmatched. Trump continually confused during this event. At one point, he was asked, was it your call not to bring Zilinski to your meeting with Putin that's scheduled for tomorrow? And of course, was it your call means, was it your decision, right? If I go, hey, was it your call to do pasta instead of pizza? You wouldn't go, oh, I had a great phone call with pasta. You would say, yes, it was my call. I decided. Trump doesn't get it. And he goes, no, I had a great call with Putin, with Zilinski, rather.
In the back, yeah, please.
Yes, Mr. President, how were your calls this morning with European leaders? And was it your call not to invite President Zilinski to your meeting with Putin?
No, just the opposite. No. We had a very good call. He was on the call. President Zilinski was on the call. I would rate it a 10, very, very friendly. I know the leaders because I was at NATO, as you know. I took it from 2% to 5%, 2% that wasn't paid, 5% that is paid, which is trillions of dollars in defense capability. No, it was always going to be, I was going to meet with President Putin, and then after that, I'm going to call the leaders and President Zilinski. I'm going to call President Zilinski, and then
So I guess he's saying it was his call, or he's not understanding. Every single press conference is just like this. The other really strange thing about these press conferences is that Donald Trump, due to a combination of malignant narcissism and insatiable egomania, he simply seems unable to stop himself from lying about the 2020 election. Remember that he still hasn't accepted that he lost the popular vote in 2016, now 9 years ago. And if he hasn't accepted the truth about 2016, he, of course, isn't going to accept the truth about 2020. And here he is still pushing this stuff.
We had a great election in 2020. We won the election by a lot, but it was a rigged election. And we had to wait 4 years, and we waited 4 years. And it's interesting because I got the Olympics and I got the World Cup. I can't claim that I got the 250th. That one's a big one. But I happen to be here. But I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup. And I said, the shame of it is that I'm not going to be president when it happens. And lo and behold, look what happens. We have some bad things took place, and now I'm going to be president for the Olympics. I'll be president for the World Cup, and the 250th is going to be maybe more exciting than both. It's a great celebration of our country. We're going to be using this building for a lot of the celebration having to do with 250 years.
And of course, subject repetition is a known and very well documented sign of cognitive decline. A practical matter came up. Are you done building the wall? Remember that Donald Trump promised in his first term to build a wall across the entire U.S.-Mexico border, which Mexico would pay for. It didn't quite happen. Here is Trump's answer to, is the wall done?
The Biden administration was auctioning off border wall materials, but we're hearing now that the auctioneer is selling those materials back. Are you finishing building the wall?
Well, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and I was getting very close. I actually finished the wall, but then I added another 200 miles because when you do the original wall that I said
You understand that, right? He finished it, but then he added more.
I was going to build, which I got built, and I got it to the specifications of the Border Patrol and ICE, the exact. They wanted steel, they wanted concrete inside, they wanted rebar inside that, they wanted it to have wires. We have the walls are wired for, all of the internet stuff and security.
We've got internet wires up the wazoo in this wall. So is it finished? Was it? First of all, was the promise we will build a wall across all 2,000 miles of U.S.-Mexico border done? Was that done? The answer is no. Did Mexico pay for it? The answer is no. And it is now 2025, 9 years after this promise was made. Trump says, I built a couple hundred miles and I finished it, but I kept working on it anyway and built even more miles. This doesn't make any sense. This just makes no sense. Geopolitical question. Will Russia face consequences if Putin doesn't agree to end the war tomorrow? This is not away in some distant future. If Putin doesn't agree to end the war tomorrow, will there be consequences? And Trump says, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences, yes.
There will be very severe. Listen to what he's saying. I mean, if this were a normal president, this would be a huge deal. If we had a president that did what he says he's going to do, that would be a major bit of news. If Putin doesn't end the war tomorrow, major consequences so severe, Trump doesn't even want to mention them. Call me skeptical. Call me really, really skeptical about this. And then finally, Donald Trump advocating for federal funds rates 3 or 4 points lower.
And now he's got us in a bad place. So we're paying $360 billion a year for each point. Now, I believe we should be 3 or 4 points lower. So that's over $1 trillion we pay every year in interest. And it's really just a paper calculation. You sign a document and you save almost $1 trillion because that number equates very much to the bonds that we have to buy. But despite that, we're powering through it. And we have the greatest economy maybe we've ever had.
Understand the conflict here. And this is, I hope I explain this clearly. Normally, when you ask the Fed to lower rates, even a little bit, it's because you need to juice the economy. The economy's not doing that well. So you say, let's lower rates to juice the economy. Trump is simultaneously saying, he wants record reductions to the federal funds rate. When Trump talks about 3 points, that's 300 basis points, 3.0. The Fed normally moves rates a quarter point or half a point at a time, what we would call 25 basis points or 50 basis points. Trump's like, reduce it 3%. Normally, the Fed would go, we're going down 0.25%, or we're going up 0.25%. So the demand is whacked. But more importantly, if we have the best economy ever of any time, of any planet, of any galaxy, why are you asking the Fed to do something so drastic that they would normally only even consider if the economy really needed rescuing? It doesn't make any sense. And just this event yesterday generated a whole new round of concern over Donald Trump's cognitive state. And it would be a disservice to my audience not to at least touch on that for a moment.